Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Royal Sussex Live. Welcome, one and all. Well, we made it again today. Um, my appointment went very well yesterday, and I got some other stuff to do today. Um, I really do have to come on early, and fortunately, I intend to make sure that I at least do my best to keep that commitment. So we'll see how it goes. Um, okay, as per usual, best to keep it. There we go. All right, I'm going to say hi to a few people, and then I got a lot of stuff to cover. A lot. So give me just a second here. Okay. I was working on the slides all the way up to the last minute, even though I started the night before. But um, it was quite an eventful morning. So for people in Europe, that's nighttime for me, or the extreme early hours of morning. But either way, oh man, I tell you, I could not believe what I was seeing. But okay, let me do this, and there we go. That's not the one I'm looking for. Let me remove that. Okay, so who was here first? Ah, that's what I'm looking for. That's it. That's it. Okay, so who was here first? Black Queen, thank you so much. Connie Balmer. Hey, Connie Balmer. Annie Bullard. Rodney Jackson. Oh, I see something. Okay. Hi, Lydia Church, Nellie, Nancy Herlock, Fatima Owen. This must be important. Let me see. Baron, before you start, can you tell us how your brother's doing? Hope all is well with him. As a matter of fact, he is doing very well. He's been in and out of the hospital, but it's kind of like it's up to him to make sure that he's doing his part. Um, the doctors are doing their part, but he needs to do his part. And so we've been trying to encourage him, but otherwise, he is doing as well as can be expected, optimistic, thinking about the future. So, um, whereas before they weren't sure, but now they say it's really up to him. So, thank you for asking, though. But yeah, it's really up to him. So, everyone is trying to encourage him. You know what I mean? But he's in good spirits. I mean, it's like as I always tell him, you are absolutely indestructible. So, but yeah, thank you so much for asking about that. Uh, as a matter of fact, I talked to, or should I say, spoke to him this morning briefly, but I did speak to him. So thank you very much, Black Queen. Thank you for asking that very nice question. And what in the, there we go. And thank you so much for the super chat. Hey, Mo Shannon, Karen. Okay, so I got a lot to cover. So I better get started. Hey, Big Mama. So today this happened. There we go. Oh, didn't mean to do that. Today this happened. Um, there were a large number of people that protested Charles today. Now, I would be fibbing if I could say what the occasion was, but it's like some usual regular royal thing that Charles was going to. It was at a church, and I think it has something to do. Listen to me, the old heathen. I think it has something to do with Easter, but if you know, you know. But anyway, so Charles arrived, and oh gosh, what is that guy's name? Ingram. The guy that always protests everything. Let me see. What's that? Uh, Okay. So, let me see. What was the occasion today? I got everything about the protest, but I should be embarrassed that I don't know what the occasion was. Well, anyway, we were out in force today, and there's a month until the coronation, and I am curious to see um, exactly how much larger the protest is going to be. Okay, it's called Mondi. Mondi. The king and the queen enjoy first Maundy Thursday service of their reign as Charles hands out money. Oh, that's that occasion where the monarch gives out money. Oh, that goes all the way back. I think even Elizabeth I did that. We're going to talk about her later too, for obvious reasons. To members of York congregation after anti-monarchy activists stage protest amid probe into family slavery history. Yes, that happened too. Let me see here. Huh. Okay. Oh, yeah, Graham Smith. That's his name. Graham Smith is what you call a coronation. Oh, yes. You know it, guys. I have a video. Um, I worked on that. So, okay. Okay. Yes, I have a video. All right, let me continue because I got plenty. Hi, Judy. Lucille Cadet. Okay. Now, this was the church today. There are the Not My King signs. So, as you know, they have branded their movement with the yellow and black. And that is, what is his name? Graham Smith. He's the person with the hoodie that you see in the foreground. Yeah, the foreground. That is Graham Smith. I've been watching some of the videos that he's posted on the YouTube. Guys, I know this. He seems like he's too good to be true. But if this is some kind of controlled opposition, they are playing with fire. Now, here's a broader scene of the occasion. You can see that there are a lot of people that are there that are not there to protest. However, there was a huge amount of the protesters there. Okay. Oh, yes, Phyllis Johnson, I will. I will. As a matter of fact, I have told him that several times. So, but yes, I will make sure that I mention that to him again. And okay, these are my favorite. Now, you guys, if those kids do not look like extras from the Addams family, now, well, actually, I can't distinguish one or the other. I'm assuming they're brother and sister, but dear God, that is the epic look that they have, especially the girl. Like she is secretly living for all the messiness. It's like messiness is her middle name. I love it. I love it. It's like she is living for the messy. Something tells me that she is secretly a squatty. Somewhere down in her being, there is a squatty. You could not make this up. You know, I know I'm not able to do it, but I could see an Easter basket, actually, two very well stuffed, full of carbohydrate Easter baskets in their future. All I can say to those darling children is keep doing what you do so well. Uh, oh man, this is too cool. I promise. Yes, you rang. They do kind of give you that Adams family energy, right? You rang. Oh man. Okay. And of course, after the event, after posing with somebody else's children, then it was time to go. And that, of course, is that gigantic, bespoke state Bentley. There is, yes, Wednesday Adams. Thank you so much. Wednesday Adams and her brother. One more time, you guys. One more time. There you go. I think I'm going to make this like my background, or what is the big photo that you put on your thing up there? I think this is going to be my background photo. I love it. I love, love, love that photo. Um, but you know what? That's what they get for having other people's children posing like that. I hate the let's get other people's children involved thing. But of course they did, and that is the price you pay. As they say, you were foolish and you have paid out for your folly. So there you go. Um, okay, so let us move on here. Now, of course, you guys, I cannot promise you that yellow t-shirt guy is going to be at any given location. But if you're lucky, you may happen to catch yellow t-shirt guy. So let me go over here and grab that video from today.
Not my king! Not my king! Not my king! Not my king! Are you wasting our money on your pointless parade? Charles, why are you wasting money on your pointless parade, Charles? You can hear people bullying you, Charles. Charles, you're going to answer your critics. Why didn't you pay inheritance tax, Charles? Charles, why didn't you pay inheritance tax? Are you going to answer your critics, Charles? How about you and me alive debate, Charles? Answer your critics. Come on, Charles. Are you waking up your face, Charles? Not my king! 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 Come on, Charles! Is that what they call the coronation chicken? The king who runs away?
The coronation chicken jumps out.
Did you guys hear what he just said? He just asked Charles if that is what you call coronation chicken. Listen to that last part again. Listen to it again.
Is that what they call the coronation chicken? The king who runs away?
The coronation chicken jumps out.
Is that what they call coronation chicken? Well, I mean, I've heard of a silky chicken, but is that what they call a coronation chicken? I could not believe it. Let me do it for you one more time. Let me do it for you one more time. Just in case you didn't hear him the first two times, I want you to please listen to that again. Is that what you call a coronation chicken?
Not my king! Come on, Charles! Is that what they call the coronation chicken? The king who runs away?
The coronation chicken jumps out.
And then you hear the guy in the background, coronation chicken. Oh my God, that was rich. Is that what you call a coronation chicken? So when it comes to the protests, it is quite obvious that they do receive pride of place. I mean, look at them. They're right there near the entrance. Um, you know, you guys, I almost feel like this is some kind of plot from another household to see if they can hasten um, Charles III's exit from the throne, if you know what I mean, by hook or crook, or some by some nefarious means. I feel like they're trying to hasten his transition, because I'm wondering how much more of this can he withstand? How much more of this type of sentiment? Because no matter what anybody says, I still think he looked rather shattered on the last occasion that happened, where they were at Westminster Abbey and he was walking out, and his face just looked very um, almost like crushed, you know? So let me see if I can find that image of Charles exiting Westminster Abbey. But I was like, okay, controlled opposition or not, it looks like it is taking a toll on Charles. He has enough domestic problems as it is without people trying to, I guess, gaslight us by making it about Joe Biden or making it about the Sussexes or anything like that. This was something that was bound to happen anyway. Charles was not popular before the Queen died, and that little popularity that he had, and I do mean a little bit, that has all dissipated, and only the deepest royalists seem to carry a torch for him. But other than that, it's not looking well for him. Karen, thank you so much for the super sticker, and thank you so much for watching Royal Sussex, and thank you for being a member of Royal Sussex. Still a bargain at just $4.99. Let's see here. Oh, Shelly L says, now how did he know Camilla was a silky chicken? could he be a squatty? He may be a squatty. They may be squatties. I'm not sure. And for some odd reason, I think Charles was so distracted by this occasion. There's actually a video where Camilla's like nudging his elbow for some reason. I don't know what that was about, but it looks like he was talking to the person next to them. And then next thing you know, Camilla's like nudging him, I got to get back so that I can change my horseshoe or something like that. But it was a nudge for some reason, and I don't fully know why, but there seemed to be like something that was done to get attention. So, okay, thank you so much, Shelly L. Thank you so much for the super chat, and thank you so much for watching Royal Sussex. So again, the quick exit in the State Bentley. Now, you guys, as you may be aware, last night, or early this morning, should I say, I don't have any way to explain this last 24 hours. I don't have the words for it. Charles has created a domestic problem that are attacking him. The domestic problems that are attacking him. Firstly, he needs to forgive, move on, and don't allow William and Kate to manage his affairs and conflict with Harry. Well, Denise, I hate to say this, but William and Kate, and believe me, I would love to blame them, but this is a nightmare of his making. Just like certain things toward the end for the Queen, that was a problem of her making. She ignored certain things that needed more attention. Like, for instance, toward the end, it seems like there was little regard for her. And, we have been speculating about those last days of her life. Well, if you don't want things like that to happen, you have to get ahead of it. And the same with Charles. If he doesn't want to be in the same situation that his mom was in, and I do believe it was a situation partially of his making, then you better get ahead of it. And the lack of sympathy that he has means that when his time comes, it's going to be that much worse. And so now they are calling upon the propaganda machine, as per usual, to try and turn things around. So, like right here, Charles supports study into royal family slavery links. King Charles back probe into royal family slavery links for the first time. Buckingham Palace says Monarch takes issue profoundly seriously as documents show William of Orange had shares in transatlantic slaving firm. Well, okay, try to put it off on William of Orange, but let us not forget Elizabeth I and who else? Charles II and so on. It did not just start at that point. I don't suspect it just started at that point. There was so much more to it. And then, of course, even after the fact that the slave holders were given reparations and not the slaves or the freed slaves, if you will, they didn't get any reparations. All the reparations went to the plantation owners. And as we have mentioned on Sussex, it was finally paid off in 2015. And so it was those kind of policies that has created a chain of events within the Caribbean, within the United States, and so on, because as things became modern and, like, of course, the cotton gin and such, everybody else moved on, but the generational lack of education, lack of proper farming land and such. I mean, let's face it, some of the best property for farming, for agriculture in the former colonies did not go to the people that worked the land. So it's a history that the United States, Britain, Spain, Portugal, etc., share in common. Belgium, of course. I mean, there's a lot to be atoned for. So for Britain's part of it, Charles wants to look into that. Now, as we know, those vast estates that dot all over the countryside in Britain, people built some incredibly large fortunes with the transatlantic slave trade. And of course, during the Black Lives Matter movement, there were a lot of people that were quite verbal about it and even destroyed plaques and statues and such. As a matter of fact, let me see if I can find. If you guys, do you guys remember the James O'Brien soundbite that I played for you guys some time ago about the slave trade? Let me see if I could find that, about where the wealth came from and how they have somehow been able to gloss over the creation of that wealth. And yeah, I love the idea. I love the idea that they are going to go into these archives and everything and find all of this information linking the royal family to the slave trade. But I hope that they don't take that time to try to destroy any of those records or to try to rewrite the history. And I'm hoping that they're going to tell it just as it is. So Let me see if
Why you think that it is wrong to put history of historic houses on display in historic houses, or to put history of plants on display in a botanic garden, but most pertinently in the context of plants. How did that get to be here?
sorry.
And most obviously in the context of houses. I always think, and I know you do too now, of that wonderful story. I've got to stop telling it, but it tickles me so much. I told it to David Harewood in the podcast that was released yesterday, because he's had some experiences and he's been making a film absolutely on point for this issue. But when the woman who used to work in the National Trust, property, rang us, so we must have done this topic before, because we took that call. And the woman rang in and she was showing a school group around a stately home, and one of the lads said, "Excuse me, miss, where did all the money come from to buy this place, please?" It was like young Keith was on the tour of the. Was it you? Because it was a few years ago. Young Keith was there with his inquiring mind and his curious nature. He said, "Excuse me, miss, where did all the money come from to build this stately home, please?" And she was sort of conscious of, I don't know what you'd call it, political correctness, wokeness, before woke was a word in the context that it's currently deployed. So she started to, well, business and sugar and this very patrician voice behind her, sort of sotto voce, whispers in her ear, tell him it was the enslavement of Africans and state-sponsored piracy. And she said, "I can't tell him that. They'll throw me out." And he said, "Well, they can't throw me out. I live here." And that just seems to me, you know how fond I am of the simple summary of a complicated issue. That sums it up, right? And the Earl of Harewood, David Harewood, was telling me, you can see the clue there in what his documentary's about, can't you? Has got all sorts of information on display about how colonialism and slavery created the fortune that his family pile is still built on. So is he woke? Is he, as the owner or the chatelaine or the inhabitant of Harewood House, revealing history of Harewood House that encompasses colonialism and slavery, is he indulging in preposterous posturing by people who are so out of touch with the sentiment of patriotic Britain? Katie's in Bristol. Katie, what's going on?
Well, I think it's all made.
Okay, so as you know, I love sharing that piece with you, but that explains a great deal. And like so many people, I knew of the slave trade. I knew of the did they call it the Golden Triangle, where the ships would leave from Britain with goods. They go down to Africa. They drop off things like textiles and I guess porcelain, guns, of course, among other things. And of course, at that point, they would send those empty ships, to the full ships to Africa, empty them of their cargo, and then fill them with slaves. The slaves would go to the Caribbean, and of course, those slave ships would also go to the southern United States, and they would, of course, sell the slaves and then load the ships with cotton and tobacco and other products and send it to Britain. And in Britain, it would go to support industries like, of course, the textile industry, where they would manufacture garments and such that they could trade for more slaves. And it was like rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. And that went on for a long time. And it built a lot of wealth for Britain. And of course, not to take anything away from what happened to what people have argued to be one of the wealthiest places in the world, India, they had their own wealth, and that was stripped of them. So you had those two things. You had the jewel of the crown, India, and of course you had the sweat equity, the blood, and of course the souls if they could possibly steal them of the slaves that helped build that economy, that not helped build it, built it. I mean, they never had it so good. And yes, that included piracy. So there was a lot of things going on. And it built a society, a wealth that no one had ever seen before. I mean, the idea that this little tiny island with all of these ships and guns and such could go from one place to the next, divide, conquer, destroy, divide, conquer, destroy, divide, conquer, destroy. And in exchange for that, they also included things like another aristocracy. They replace whatever aristocracy that was there and create one in their own image. So how deep does Charles want to go? Dr. Scholler says, Charles supports study into royal family slavery links. Then what? His mother, the queen, never apologized, make amends. Will he? If it doesn't lead to formal apology, reparations, and justice, he can shove it alongside his personal sorrow over slave trade. Whitewash study alert. And that's exactly what it is. It is a whitewash study alert. And of course, this study will not be completed for possibly, I think they said 3 years. I think they said it's going to be 3 years before this study is complete. So what happens in the 3 years? Well, I have some theories about why now. Now, I just want to do a little revision here. After the queen died, I heard the chief monarch of a thieving R-word genocide empire is finally dying. May her pain be excruciating. And then Uju Anya went on to say, if anyone expects me to express anything but disdain for the monarch who supervised a government that sponsored the genocide that massacred and displaced half my family, and consequences of which those alive are still trying to overcome, you can keep wishing upon a star. Now, this is what got her a lot of notice at the time the queen died. Now, as you know, by the time she made these tweets, the queen was probably already gone. And so instead of this outpouring of, I guess, mourning and crying and sorrow for the queen, there were people who just kind of said, yep, this is history. It's been 70 years. And there were others who, I mean, let's face it, the queen was up in age. There were others who started saying, okay, are we going to talk about this? I mean, it was like, even on American television, even, places you wouldn't expect, I was going to wait like a week before we started having these conversations. Well, I think it wasn't even 24 hours, and the airways were slammed with people asking about things like reparations. What has she done? The British royal family has always stood for white supremacy, and on and on and on. And that surprised me, that not that it was said, not that it was brought up, but just that it didn't take a day. It didn't take a day. And so my theory is Charles has some huge problems. Nobody is excited about the coronation. No one is excited about him. And despite all the money that has been spent, nobody gives a toss about his wife, the newly crowned queen. Nobody cares. And so they have not moved the dial very much in spite of all the efforts that they've made. So this, I believe, is too little too late. Do they copy everything? The Dutch started theirs. Yes, you know what, Legs? I think we spoke. Yeah, I did speak about that. Like for instance, the state golden coach that they use, or whatever they refer to it, they have this huge carriage coach that is used for coronations. So King Willem Alexander, he said, we're going to put that thing in a museum. It won't be used. Or are they just going to put it away until they look into these things? Now, I believe he said that about a year ago. I believe he mentioned that before the Queen died, if I'm correct. I don't know the exact timeline, but it is a copy and paste of the Dutch royal family and their pursuit to dig into their history of slavery, their nation, their family's connection into the slave trade, and of course, how it has enriched them over the years. And of course, if Britain seemed to be punching well above their weight, conquering the world, the Dutch, they weren't too far behind. For such a small country, they managed to enrich themselves in ways that is almost unbelievable. But yeah, they built a huge empire, considering the size of the country. But yeah, they did. And so it is really much, very much, should I say, a situation where the British royal family is just simply copying off of another royal household. Thank you so much for your comment, Lace, and thank you, as always, for your super sticker and watching Royal Sussex. Let's see. Shelly L says, why does he need to do a study? We already know what happened. You know, the 3 years, he could do an acknowledgement now and still say there's going to be a study. But generally, we just about know what we need to know. And also, I'm going to tell you guys, even if they try to suppress or hide certain things, there are documents in other places besides Britain. And of course, there are some documents. You guys, I do believe that if they were to be able to go into these royal, I'm not royal, but these aristocratic households and get a good look at the books, there is so much there. So I would warn against being too heavy-handed with certain individuals, because the last thing we want is for that documentation to end up, trashed somewhere, burned or eliminated. So, and that's the risk, is that, like the one that James O'Brien was speaking about. Well, he's very open, as far as we know. He's very open about his family's wealth. But I guess my warning is, if you push too hard, we're going to lose all of the information for the ages. So it really does need to be done with care. It definitely needs to be done with care. Otherwise, there is so much that may be lost if they are a bit heavy-handed, I believe. So just something to consider. Anastasia says, but it wasn't only the British Empire that had been in charge of slave trade. They didn't start it. It was the Spanish and the Portuguese who started the whole process. Well, yeah, that's true. But Spain, their royal family only costs about $7-8 million a year. The Portuguese no longer have a royal household, or should I say, they don't have a sovereign. And the British, well, the economy is in trouble. They don't have a good trade deal, and they have a monarch who is incredibly unpopular. And they have a Prince of Wales, a crown prince, if you will, who is only popular because people haven't taken a good look at him. And so they need this study. They need this right now, because The status quo is not working for them. Now, I did listen to a conversation earlier today where someone was saying that this is all to bolster William's image. And I'll explain that some more in a short time. Thank you very much, Anastasia Isabella. Black Queen says Europe, the Americas to include South America, was built on the backs of black enslaved people. Are they crapping me? Let me see. Are they crapping me right now? They already know the horrors of their past. To now, this enrages me. Yeah, because it's a bunch of smoke and mirrors. That's what I don't like about this. It's like it's an insult to the intelligence of most people, and in particular, it is an insult to anyone of African descent, whether it's from the Caribbean, South America, Central America, or North America. It is an insult. And along with the wealth that they built, the other thing that was traded for human lives, besides textiles and even tobacco products and tea and such, the other thing that was traded, or should I say gifted, was I already mentioned aristocracy, but just look at some of the parliaments in other countries. Look at some of those parliaments. In particular, let's look at the buggery law. Britain, I think you could still be punished for buggery or for homosexuality. I think you could still be severely punished for that until the 1960s, was it? Until the 1960s? I mean, they were really dragging that along, right? Well, if you look at some of the old colonies, or some of the Commonwealth countries, if you like, and the way their criminal justice system is set up, some of those countries could be particularly brutal when it comes to their buggery laws. And where did that come from? That was something that was learned from the British. And a lot of things that are either no longer outlawed in Britain or not as severe a punishment, that is yet another remnant that nobody ever talks about. And so when you see some of those countries in Africa where they threaten people with life in prison up to death, that is a remnant of colonialism. Even the way their parliament is set up, that is a remnant of colonialism. And even though it seems like the United States Congress can be rather uncivilized, I look at other parliaments or other legislative bodies, and I'm always amazed at the shouting and disorder that you see in comparison to the United States Congress, where things are a little more sedate. You know, as wacky as it can be, things are a little more sedate in Congress. It's only been recent years that we've had someone like a Marjorie Taylor Greene, and you know that pretty much started during the Obama administration, where someone would openly call the president a liar. But just in case some of you guys don't know, the president is not a member of Congress. The president is not a member of the Senate, and it's unusual for a president to even show up at the Congress or at the Capitol building more than, let's say, twice a year. And even then, the president usually asks permission from the Speaker of the House, who, you know, that's their territory. So it's unusual. So that's one of the reasons why you don't see those exchanges like you see with a prime minister, is because the president could literally go years without ever stepping into the Capitol building if he or she so chooses. So that's the difference in the system right there. Okay, but thank you, Black Queen. Greatly appreciate it. Foxy, thank you so much for the super chat. And thank you for watching Royal Sussex. And you say, do you think Harry and Meghan will come to the crowning, Baron? Well, it seems as though they're making preparations. Now, everybody has had their opinions about it. I do believe that it is still like touch and go. Maybe they finally have said something about it, or maybe they're just preparing just in case. However, I believe that there is some intense negotiation going on, and Harry is not going to show up unless he has certain things ironed out, and not just about security, not just about the coronation. And I believe that the Charles and his courtiers want to control Harry's, comings and goings, like that whole thing about the 30 days or 28 days. I'm sure Harry lets them know anytime he's coming over there, and probably last minute since it doesn't involve their security anymore. But it's a moot point about security for the coronation, because if Harry is there in an official capacity, then the royal protection officers are included. Anything outside of something to do with the family, then royal protection officers are not likely. And this is what Harry is fighting for, is to have the ability to have the royal protection officers, and even the ability to compensate the government for the protection. And they are saying that that's not possible. We don't do that, although they have done it in the past. So I believe that it's going to be a last minute thing. They'll know sooner than later whether or not they're actually coming, or they may know now, but I believe that there was intense negotiation leading up to the yay or nay about going to the coronation. So we'll see. But I'm more than certain that for this occasion, they will have royal protection for that period of time. And so there is a semantical game that the tabloids love to play, where they want to pretend as though Harry is overreacting, and that how could he not be safe? The whole world is going to be watching. He'll be with his family. Of course, he's going to be safe. And I agree. Nothing's going to happen at that point. But that's not the type of thing that Harry is speaking of. It is not about the security during a state occasion. It's security when I go to Well Child. It's security when I'm working with wounded soldiers. That is the security that he's speaking of. It's security if I just want to bring my family. So, and hate listeners, I know you probably won't take this as being anything more than me running my mouth, but it is true. It's not just about the state occasions. It's for any reason or purpose that Harry shows up. And as a member of the royal family, and as someone who has had a lifetime of royal protection, then by sheer right of his birth, that is what he deserves, whether he's a working royal or not, especially when you have Andrew receiving that same type of protection in spite of the shame and humiliation that he brought to his mother, to his family, and to the people of his country before his mother died. He still has royal protection, but you won't protect someone who has left for reasons that doesn't really need an explanation at this point. I mean, you're trying to destroy his family, so give him his royal protection. Okay. Hey, Cookies and Cream, thank you so much for being here. Hi, Benny Blair. Let me see. Charles is too political. A monarch should not be courting Biden, Macron, and the German president. That is Rishi Sunak's job. Charles should visit other monarchs. Yeah, obviously is too political. There is reasons for the monarch to go to different occasions, but it looks very strange. I always thought that looked weird when you would see the Queen and Boris Johnson at the same event. And that's the only situation where you would see a prime minister or president flanked by the royal family, like when they had the G7, and you have Charles, Camilla, the Queen, and Kate accompanying Boris Johnson. That looked ridiculous. So, yeah, very. Thank you for saying that. Okay, let us move on because, like I said, I got a bit to cover. I'll do one more before I move on. Yes, in the UK, the House of Commons is elected by the people. They create the laws, but it is passed the House of Lords that contains royal landowners and title appointed by the king or queen. Well, again, I'll do a comparison for the United States Congress. Okay, we say Congress. When we say the Congress, we do mean the House of Representatives and the Senate. So the congressmen, of course, would be the representatives or the Congress, and the Senate, of course, would be the senators. Well, the model for our lawmakers was created in the image of the British Parliament, and it means that you would have the president, who would be the head of state, and then, of course, you would have Congress with the upper and lower houses. And, of course, the upper house would be the senators, and the lower house would be the congressmen. Now, the House of Lords, they have a lifetime appointment, right? Or they inherit their titles. Well, the senators at one time were appointed by the governor of each state, and every state has two senators. Every state has two senators. And so the senators keep their position for life until they had an amendment that said the senators could only serve a 6-year term. And so the senators now are also elected rather than appointed, as before they were appointed instead of elected. And the other thing is the senators, if a senator dies or leaves office early for whatever reason, retirement, illness, then the governor of that state can nominate a senator to fulfill whatever part of that 6-year term. And when that 6-year term is completed, then they could either run for election outright and win, or they will lose, and whoever challenges them can become the next senator for that state. Usually, the governor chooses a senator from the party affiliated to that governor. So, if a Republican governor has a chance to appoint a senator, then he'll probably appoint a Republican. If it's a Democrat governor, same thing. He's going to choose a Democrat. And even if the person that dies or leaves office, retires, is from another party, that governor is going to put whoever he wants in place. So that is how you can compare the two houses. But again, a prime minister is usually part of the parliament, whereas the president is part of the co-equal branches of government. So in theory, the House and Senate is the legislative branch. They make the laws. And of course, the president enforces the laws and signs the laws into law. And then, of course, the Supreme Court, they interpret the law. So they're co-equals. All right. That was my civic lesson for today. I hope I didn't bore you guys, but I just wanted to explain that for the benefit of people who don't know how the system works. Gabby says, "Hey, Baron, I do not get the impression that the Sussexes are last minute, past the deadline persons. Believe the palace already knows leaking might not be the best, may not be in their best interest. That's true, but then the media, um, they have their ways of finding out things, and the family may be actively briefing, or it could be someone within the royal household. We can't know for sure, but one thing we do know for sure: there are no leaks in Montecito. There are no leaks in Montecito, so at least we can count on that, right? There are no leaks in Montecito. Hey, B10 pal. Okay, so I'm just going to scroll all the way down to the last. And no new members, no more super chats. Okay, let's move on. And all right, so here you have Carnegie Mellon CRT professor brazenly declares Queen's reign violent after sparking fury about wishing monarch painful death. And then, of course, the untenured Carnegie Mellon critical race theory professor doubled down. So that was something that happened after the Queen died. And I was just bringing out some receipts to share with you guys to show you the basis of Charles' issues right now is that this is unresolved. There hasn't been any apologies. The Queen had the opportunity to apologize for things like the Mau Mau massacre, and she never mentioned it. She'd rather just, have tea, make a state visit or something like that to various places, but no acknowledgement of those types of things. And as she aged, as her hair turned white, it was easier for her to not speak about things that a lot of people had strong opinions about. Elaine Parker, thank you so much for the super sticker, and thank you for watching Royal Sussex and being a member of Royal Sussex. All right, so here, this young lady, I do recall this. The CNN reporter asked British woman about Queen Elizabeth, who says she's not the biggest fan of the Queen, so she's not upset or overwhelmed by it. She added because of British colonial history. Now, this is one of the young people that Charles needs to court if he's going to be successful and perpetuate the relevance of the royal family. And of course, William is going to need this young person. And it was interesting that during that period, over and over again, one of the reasons they cited for the irrelevancy of the royal family was just that, colonialism, among other things. But colonialism seemed to be very big on their reasons why they were not mourning or at that particular time. And she just said, I'm not the right person to ask. So there was this like parallel universe at the time when the Queen was slipping away, and you had people, young people in particular, who called out every crime against humanity, every atrocity. I have to say, I was quite impressed. I was very impressed because it was almost without hesitation. As a matter of fact, in most cases, it was without hesitation. They said what they meant, and they meant what they said. Now, this is not the Britain that we typically see here in the U.S. And so as I'm looking at this unfold, I'm just like, wow, I kind of want to have a respectful mourning period here on Royal Sussex. But at the same time, not even the Queen's subjects seem to, give the royal family a break. And so we had those discussions, but it was very interesting. It was a very interesting period. And I promise you, as long as I live, I will never forget those very impressive people that spoke out at that time. And then some people, of course, tried to say, "Oh, is this really the right time?" And apparently, it did not matter, given where things were with the royal family. It seemed very justified in their eyes, and who am I to argue with them? So I was just like, okay, I guess it's the right time. But yeah, Catherine Reeves, thank you so much for the super sticker, and thank you so much for watching Royal Sussex. And happy Thursday to you. Greatly appreciated. Matter of fact, you get 2 bells. But thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And of course, that goes a long way to supporting this channel. So I really, really do appreciate that. So, oh, let me see. Let me see. I am actually scrolling, looking for that young lady. And miraculously, I think I may be very close. That is deep in the archives, and I hopefully they haven't pulled that particular video, but that would have been September. So let me go back in my archive and see if I can grab that, because again, I was quite impressed. So that is October. Wow. Okay. Oh, that is September. All right, let's keep our fingers crossed that it's there. Oh, wait. Okay. Oh, wow. This is, oh, man. Looking back into September like that, it seemed like it was decades away, decades ago. But let me hope I can find her. And that would have been the day, so September 9th. I'm close. I'm close. September 9th. Note to self, never shake hands with Liz Truss. Okay. Oh, yeah. I'm afraid that. Oh, there she is. There she is. I found her. I found her. Okay. You guys got to hear this. Let's hope this works properly.
It's sad, like, when anyone kind of gets in that position, like, you wouldn't want that to happen to your own family member. But I'm not, like, the biggest fan of the Queen or just, like, the monarchy in general, so I wasn't, like, that upset or overwhelmed by it. It was just something that happens, I guess.
You're not the biggest fan of the monarchy. I wonder why.
Mainly to do with, like, British, like, colonial history, things like that. A lot of things that have gone on which have been quite shady, even like recently with like Prince Andrew and everything. So yeah, I'm not really their biggest fan.
Fair enough. It was nice talking to you. And I just wonder what you thought, what your first reaction was when you...
So there you go. Colonialism. That that was her default setting, colonialism. And then it just continues from there. So I still remembered her, and that's why I wanted to share that at this time, because this really gets to the root of the problems, or some of the problems that that Charles is having right now. Let's see. Catherine Reeves says, you know, Camilla doesn't look good. Her tone, her color. I think she will pass in 2 years, and then Charles will shortly follow. Then we have Wacky William. You know, they are up there. They are up there. And Camilla has been in, I would say, in somewhat poor health, and of course, I know we're not wishing anything bad on either one of them, but, um, you know, it cannot be untrue just because maybe we're trying to be polite and skirt around the issue. I mean, let's face it, the Queen's casket was constructed, what, 30 years, 40 years before she died. I think she was in her 60s when she and Philip were fitted for their boxes. So that is a preoccupation of the royal family, is death and dying. We travel with a black suit, as they say. Audrey Teschner, thank you so much for the super sticker, and thank you for watching Royal Sussex. All right, so let's move on. And then, of course, former African colonies remember Queen's legacy with mixed emotions. Here you have Charles won't let Archie be a prince as he plans to slim down the monarchy. And of course, there's that Sean. Okay. Thank you so much for the super chat. And thank you for being messy. Reportedly won't allow Archie to be a prince when he becomes king. Now, that is dated June of 2021. So that was a conversation that really started once the Sussexes gave their Oprah Winfrey interview. And then let's continue. I'm going to go kind of fast right now. So allegedly, the king has invited Ngozi, that is, to Buckingham Palace after racism row. Below is a photo of the then Prince Charles meeting Ngozi back in 1997 at a Prince's Trust event. Ngozi was wearing an African print dress. He doesn't seem to be bothered about where she comes from. So this is like one of those receipts that was shared, not so long ago. But let's face it, Charles had every opportunity to speak up and speak out about this event. Camilla had the opportunity to speak out about that event, but instead they did a little gaslighting. Somebody invited her to come to the palace. There was no real full-throated apology, and really the host of the event was Camilla, not Charles. Camilla should have been the one to have spoken up. Now, I don't know much about those types of situations, but I do know enough that if a host invites you into their home, so to speak, even if it's Buckingham Palace, if something goes terribly wrong, not only should you get an apology from the person who has caused you harm, but also the host or host of the event should also speak up. And that did not happen. And least of all, not publicly. And then, of course, there's this event. Here's another situation where Charles has fallen short. Highgrove secretary claimed racial abuse by Charles' staff, meaning, of course, Michael Fawcett. Michael Fawcett used the N-word, called her the N-word secretary, according to the woman that you see there. She is biracial. That was understood. She wasn't ever a part of the team, according to her. They always kind of othered her. And she promises that when he referred to her as the N-word secretary, that it was within earshot of where Charles would have been at that time. And he, of course, Michael Fawcett, according to her, allegedly had little or no regard as to whether or not anyone could overhear him. As a matter of fact, he even said it in front of other people. But the whole point was That is a man who started working for the royal family, working for Charles when he was 19 years old. He has no discernible skills other than doing the bidding of Charles III, whatever that means. And this is one of those situations where, once again, Charles had a chance to speak up and speak out about something that was not a grand gesture like this study about his family's wealth and racism, but he chose to ignore it. She tried to sue, but of course, um, dealing with the royal family, that's not possible. And then, of course, the royal family won't condemn the op ed about abusing Meghan Markle. Camilla, who wasn't exactly known for any type of racist tendencies. However, if you hang out with crap, you're going to smell like crap. If you walk like a duck and you quack like a duck, you're probably being a racist. Well, she didn't seem to give any thought about it. She just refused to speak up or speak out. As it has been said by Piers Morgan, who has spent years trolling Meghan, someone within the firm thanked him for going after her. And then, of course, there's Jeremy Clarkson. We don't have to really say anything else about that. I'm sure we're all clear on his participation with trying to destroy Meghan. And then there was the warning by Africa and India about the crown jewels and the coronation. So allegedly, the Koh-i-Noor diamond, which was stolen from an child from India, a young Maharaji, I believe it was. And of course, not only did they steal it from him, they forced him to go to the UK and hand deliver it to Queen Victoria, the Empress of India. I almost choke when I say that, but the Empress of India. Emperor or Empress usually means you have conquered someone, right? Victoria was born. Well, anyway, that was it. She was born, and so because she was queen at the time that the East India Company pillaged India, then they referred to her as Empress. Because the thing is, you guys, let me remind everyone about something. I'm sure some of you all know this fully, but it's not always about whether or not the royal family has gained wealth directly. It's also doing things in the name of the monarch. So the Queen's courts, the Queen's council, the Queen's whatever, when you do these things in the name of a monarch, then eventually they shall be enriched by the use of their name, directly or indirectly. And of course, let us remember this. So, William, as someone said, William is going to have to deal with the Commonwealth eventually. The Wessexes, or the Edinburghs as they are now, they don't really have the type of celebrity necessary to deal with the Commonwealth. In other words, they will make little or no impact. That is something that is usually reserved for the Prince of Wales, who, of course, is William the Magnificent and Catherine the Great. Well, this is the lasting image of the, at the time, Cambridges, now the Waleses. This is the way they roll. I would say the trip to the Caribbean that they took, the all expense paid vacation where they lost half the Caribbean, I would say that was only slightly more impressive than this. This, of course, is pretty bad. But the last one, well, anyway, most people don't know about this one. So I would still say that the all expense paid vacation was the worst thing ever for them. But as I said before, I have looked, I have searched in vain. I still cannot find an image of Charles being carried by people. But Will and Kate, I will never let this one fade into obscurity. I intend to share it routinely. And then, of course, so as we all know, they are doing a study about the family's wealth. Apparently, I believe it was William III. If I'm correct, I believe he built parts, if not all, of Kensington Palace as he knew it at the time. I believe part of the building of Kensington Palace came from the slave trade, the wealth created from the slave trade. Well, William, the Prince of Wales, William at the time, the Duke of Cambridge, they invite the first, and so far the only that we know of, American president of African descent to Kensington Palace. I used to wonder why they didn't go directly to Harry's house. Now I get it. And so rather than remove a painting depicting slavery, rather than remove it, they put a lamp in front of it. They put a lamp in front of it. Now, as you can see, that lamp is identical to the one on the side there, right? So that tells you that the lamp was placed there. There's 3 lamps on that side table, 3. So that tells you that it was placed there to obscure the nameplate on that painting, which mentions slave. That's why the lamp is there. Instead of removing the painting, they put a lamp in front of it. Like, we'll just put a lamp in front of it. But of all people, you will never guess who exposed the fact that this is a painting about slavery. And by the way, I believe that's Windsor Castle you can see in the background. It was the Daily Fail. They were the ones who reported that this painting from the Royal Collection was a painting depicting a Black man being subservient to his white masters. They got a lot of work to do. They got a lot of work to do. This is a close-up. There it is. As you can see, holding the reins of the horses. Now, obviously, they thought highly of this individual because, okay, that's not Windsor Castle. I'm sorry, that's not. I don't know what that is in the background, but it's not Windsor. Obviously, they thought highly of him, right? So, at the very least, he is looking away from the other subjects in the painting. Usually, they have the subservient person of African descent looking up into the eyes of whatever other person. But, of course, he's smaller of stature, of course. And the dogs are there to keep him company. And he's dressed in some fine clothing, of course. But other than that, it looks rather subservient. So that shows a blatant disrespect, as far as I'm concerned, for the president of the United States to invite him to the house, and rather than removing the painting, which is something that the Cambridges see as a decorative item in Kensington Palace Apartment 1. Is it Apartment 1? They decided, we'll just put a lamp in front of it. Yes, that won't look strange at all to have 3 lamps on one side table. People do that all the time when they have the image of a slave in the background. I know I would, or better, just remove the painting. Hello, is it Mignon Hen Murray? Hello, Baron administrators and squatties. I am happy to be able to join the live. Lately, I was only able to listen to the podcast in the evening. Have a great day and God bless. Thank you so much for saying that. I appreciate it. And thank you so much for being here. Okay, and so there is Martin Luther Cambridge. Martin Luther Cambridge. Now, this was his opportunity to shine. But instead, we found out rather than acknowledge any wrongdoing, we are very much not a racist family. What an odd way to answer. But that's Martin Luther Cambridge. And of course, on full display in front of the entire world, the most viewed Commonwealth Day ceremony, I'll add, the exit of Harry and Meghan, on full display was a cold, frigid royal family, and they did not care. They did not care that anybody saw it. And just like with the Queen's funeral, just like with Philip's funeral, when they were mistreating Harry because of who he married, they didn't care. It was on full display. They were so emboldened by their aristocratic titles that they just did not care that the world watched, as they did everything they could to try to humiliate the only person of African descent in modern day Britain to be a part of that family. They did not care. It was business as per usual. It was like a big game. It was like a big game to them. And then right here, Kate fights back tears over Ukraine, blah, 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 blah. But let's get to the real thing here. He said Britons were more used to seeing conflict in Africa and Asia, right? It's very alien to see this in Europe. We are all behind you, he said. But he added that he, like many, wanted to do more to help. We feel so useless, he said. Okay, that's all very interesting, but let's focus on that one thing right there. We're more used to seeing conflict in Africa and Asia. Never in the history of mankind has there ever been a place more violent than Europe. Ever. I don't care how you look, you're not going to find any place where wholesale elimination of life, murder, warfare was mechanized. You'll never find any place like it. And this person who graduated from uni with a degree in geography doesn't seem to know the difference. We're just not used to seeing this in Europe, he said. This is something we associate with Africa or Asia. That's a bad case of foot and mouth disease. Oh, thank you so much, Mignon. And thank you for watching Royal Sussex. Happy Thursday to you. So yes, he says this is something that we're not used to. So if Charles thinks that this study is going to mitigate or distract from William's problem with race, too little, too late, because I think people already know who he is. We know of him and we know how he is. So this is a fool's errand. This is not going to help your case at all because he has foot and mouth disease. I believe Governor Ann Richards of Texas put it best when she was speaking about George Bush. She said, "Poor George, he couldn't help it. He was born with a silver foot in his mouth." I believe that William was born with a silver foot in his mouth because he's not much better than anybody else in that family. Matter of fact, He may very well be the worst. At least Charles wasn't photographed being carried by the so-called natives. And then, of course, there was the tour of the Caribbean to celebrate the Queen's Jubilee, Platinum Jubilee. Now, remember, Harry and Meghan were the ones that caused utter anguish for the Queen in her last years of life, right? Not Andrew, right? Not Charles with his side piece becoming the eventual head of the Church of England, an adulterer and his mistress. That didn't bother her. Or not even William and Kate losing half of the Caribbean. That did not distress her in any way whatsoever. It was Harry fighting for the life of his wife and newly born child that was so painful to the Queen. She couldn't understand that. It wasn't Philip's friendship with Penny Natchbull, his companionship, that didn't hurt her. It wasn't 1992, the destruction of the Windsor Castle, 3 of her 4 children, marriages ending in divorce. None of that really hurt her. It was Harry and Meghan. So whenever you guys hear the tabloids say that, just remember it was Harry and Meghan. None of those other things hurt her. None of it. All of that other stuff, that was just business as usual. But it was something exceptional about Harry and Meghan. Oh, I know what it is. It's that black blood. Light-skinned Harry and his biracial wife and his mother-in-law with the dreadlocks. That is painful. I get it. Yep, I could see that. I could see that. And then, of course, the population control issue. Now, Williams says that there is too much pressure being put on the land in Africa. There's too much pressure on the ecology. There are species that are endangered because of the native African-born people living in the motherland to which we all have evolved, right? That's the problem. But as you can see, let me see, the only place that has the least amount of human presence is North America. And that's because of the mountains and, north of Toronto, things can be pretty chilly. You have these vast wilderness, right? But aside from that, Africa is in second place. And given the size of Africa, that is incredible. Europe and Asia has the most dense population, not Africa. But William, who has a degree in geography, he thinks otherwise. Those Africans, they're everywhere. And so Prince William has renewed his attack on population growth in Africa, blaming it for destroying wildlife on the continent, not the Canadian oil company that is in the Okavango Delta drilling, not Shell and Amoco and all those other places, British Olive Petroleum. None of those companies have anything to do with it. It is the indigenous people who barely, in some places, get any type of internet or cell reception. They're the ones that are overtaxing and overburdening the land, the motherland, to which we all have evolved. Right. Right, William. Right. And of course, on the way to the Caribbean, where they lost half of the Commonwealth, William and Kate were the reason why they stopped their plan to put people who have known no other place, and of course, we're talking about the Windrush, the people who have been made nationless because the Tories, I think it was the Tories, said they lost or could not find any record of them. What they would do is let people go on vacation and then they can't come home. Or people who are there already, they'll say, oh, you can't possibly work here. You're not a citizen. I mean, they stripped people of their citizenship and was planning to take them to places where they barely know anybody, just to remove brown people from England, right? And so that's where William gave his famous "I had a scheme" speech, where Martin Luther Cambridge was trying to speak to the Windrush as they unveiled a statue, right? Instead of spending the money on the statue, maybe if you paid compensation to some of the Windrush people. But and of course, if you guys, and I'm not an expert, but the Windrush was people from the Caribbean who felt as though they were going to the motherland to help them rebuild after the war, when they were in dire need of labor, only for years down the line to be told that you are not one of us. It's kind of like the Turks in Germany. Germany needed the Turks to rebuild their economy. And so even if you were born there, they didn't expect you to stay there. It's the same all over the world. It's the same all over the world. Nothing unique about that in Britain. So, not picking on Britain, but it's a very common story. So, there you go. Georgia Walker, I'm proud to be a member of Royal Sussex for 12 months. Did I miss that? Did I miss that? Let me take a look back. I'm on a different screen where I can't see that, but thank you so much. And thank you for the super chat. I really do appreciate it. Sorry that I missed that. Okay. Yeah, sorry that I missed that. But I really, really do appreciate it. And thank you for supporting this channel. Let me see. Georgia Melendez says they told Jamaica to build a prison to collect the people they had planned to deport. Oh my God. Are you serious? Are you serious? Lord have mercy. The caucasity of it. Lorna Williams said they moved the Home Office. The government destroyed the records of the Windrush people. They are shipping them home and stripping them of their pensions. A special place in hell for people that do stuff like that. That's evil. And wait a minute. Let me ask you this question. So the reason why it's better to have a monarch is that a monarch is a safeguard against a government that has gotten out of hand, right? The monarch will safeguard the people and prevent an overzealous government from strong arming them and mistreating them, and right? Isn't that what the monarch is supposed to do? So if the government ever oversteps the mark, His Majesty could actually dissolve Parliament and insist on a new government form, right, in his name. And so, if I'm correct, when the Home Office moved and destroyed records, the Queen stepped in to say, no, those are my subjects and they are not going anywhere. Is that what happened? Right? Did she dissolve the government as constitutionally she can do to prevent them from mistreating the Windrush people? Or did she go to the horse races and wave from her box? Or did Charles retreat to Highgrove and, I don't know, pick some bean sprouts or something from his organic garden? I think that's probably what happens. And as for the people that are being mistreated, you're on your own. The Windrush also affected Africans too. Really? Okay, I thought it was just focused on the Caribbean, but I had no idea. But yeah, well, I mean, with the Commonwealth, I guess that does make sense, but I thought it was just mostly focused on the Caribbean. But thank you for telling me about that. And thank you so much for the super chat. So, such is the affairs of state, right? And then, of course, proudly showing up were a bunch of Black people to celebrate. I forget that actress name, the one with the big hair, the Afro puff. I forget what her name is. What is her name? Oh gosh, I forgot her name. But anyway, so they were there for the event, right? Many Black journalists were excluded from the Windrush Day event because nobility, Prince William, attended. So because Prince William was there, they had the royal rodents. And so that excluded Black journalists. Are you all listening to me? That excluded Black journalists from being a part of it. Black journalists had been permitted to attend. The coverage could have been different. If more Black journalists had been permitted to attend, the coverage could have been different, balanced, and truly evaluate. Whatever that word is. Evaluative. But that's a tongue twister. But absolutely sickening and cringeworthy. William continues gaslighting and virtue signaling will be his downfall. Well, mark that down. Gaslighting, virtue signaling will be his downfall. William and Kate's staff refuse to reveal staff ethnicity figures. So that's another thing. They would not reveal the ethnicity figures. Lorna Williams says Windrush people helped rebuild the UK after World War II. Imagine working over 40 years in the UK and depending on your retirement pension to get shipped back to your country with nothing. Yeah. Oh my God, that's awful. That is absolutely awful. But good thing that there's a monarch who's going to step in and right the wrongs of an overzealous government, I say sarcastically. Good thing the monarch is there. If they had a president, an elected head of state, I promise you that would have happened. But since they have a monarch, at least there's a safeguard, as I say sarcastically. At least there's a safeguard to go and step in there and right those wrongs. Karuna Reina, thank you so much for the super sticker. And thank you for watching Royal Sussex. So right here, Dr. Shola says, Prince William wears casual racism like he does his receding hairline visibly. It's time to call him out on racism. From Meghan Markle to his recent war is alien in Europe comments, he has a case to answer. Okay. And of course, she wrote about that in the Village Voice. And of course, thank you, Cold War Steve, for this depiction. And you guys, there is the statue of Colston there in the background, I believe. That's the statue that was toppled in, was it Liverpool? They toppled that statue because, well, it seemed rather out of place, if you know what I mean. They are celebrating someone who was enriched by the slave trade. And so for that reason, that statue had to go. Okay. Let me see. Most of the Windrush people were born as British subjects, but yes, thank you for pointing that out, living in the Triangle. Most of the Windrush people were born as British subjects before their countries became independent. And that's a very important point, because at the time of birth, the sovereign was your head of state. At that time of birth, the laws were still, dictated from the motherland. And so, as part of the British Empire, you were a subject of Britain. You're a subject. And if you're born a subject, you're born a citizen. And so, if you go over after the war to help rebuild, then why would you lose all of the legal rights and protection of your citizenship, if you will, or being a subject? Why would you lose all of that because your homeland, your land of birth, has become independent since the time you left? Make that make sense. That is a particular kind of evil. Yes, the Afro Puff lady, Floella Benjamin, that's her name. Thank you very much. She has, what is she, an OBE or something like that? She's a dame, and a seasoned actress. So yeah, she's been in it for a while, and she is definitely a royalist. Okay, and so Colston's connection, how Prince William's Kensington Palace home is linked to slavery. Palace was resident of William III, who was given shares in slave transport company and successive monarchs involved in trade. Okay, so that is how there is a link to Kensington Palace and William III. And there's a statue of Colston taking a nosedive into the river. This was during the Black Lives Matter, George Floyd movement. And right here, there is Charles III. I believe he's in Africa at the point of no return. The last part of Africa that anybody ever sees, the castle. And of course, here is the Cambridges in the Caribbean. So this was a story in the Guardian, right? But wait a minute, you guys. I don't know if you all saw this. I don't know what happened with the Guardian, but take a look at this. Palace was residence of William III, who was given shares in the slave transport company and successive monarchs involved in trade. Awareness has grown in recent years of William III's personal investment in the transatlantic slave trade at the time, that is, he built Kensington Palace, and of successive English monarchs' involvement in the industrial scale enslavement and exploitation of Black people. And then there, of course, was Elizabeth I, who also sponsored the early, actually, it was said that it was her approval that got the English involved in the slave trade to begin with, right? Now, this is the Guardian today. How the Tory royal funding deal gave rise to King Charles's potential cash windfall. How the British royal family hides its wealth from public scrutiny, right? Who owns and profits from the duchies of Lancaster and Cornwall? They have a timeline. And then the one I shared yesterday, royals took more than £1 billion income from controversial estates. And then, of course, Windsors versus Bourbons, comparing the public pay of European royal families. Well, the Bourbons, of course, are the French royal family that were executed, right? And then, of course, part of the Bourbon, the House of Bourbon, is the Spanish royal family. It only costs about $7 to $8 million or pounds or euros for them every year, right? Compared to the British royal family, who, according to some people, cost as much as 350 million pounds per year. Clearly the wealthiest. I know they say the Liechtenstein royal family is the wealthiest royal family in Europe. I don't believe that. I don't believe it. It is the Mountbatten-Windsors. They're the ones that are the wealthiest. And then, of course, the British monarchy ties to slavery are right large in historical archives. And then the Colston connection, how Prince William's Kensington Palace home is linked to slavery, okay? And then the British kings and queens who supported and profited from slavery. You guys, that's your homework. There are, 8 different prominent stories in the Guardian that have been run within 24 hours. 8 different stories. I don't know why the Guardian is crapping all over the royal family today, but I wouldn't know where to start. I mean, I did share one yesterday, but I wouldn't know where to start. I mean, you have all of that. Lengthy articles about the royal family. Now, riddle me this. Why are they doing this 30 days before the coronation? Why are they doing this 30 days prior to the coronation? And again, don't blame Harry and Meghan. This has nothing to do with them. But why are they doing this 30 days before the coronation? I have no idea. The Guardian took a poll and decided to be on the right side of history. I hope that's the case. I hope that's the case. I find it rather strange, but yet awesome. Okay. So I'm going to just, they did some beautiful artwork for these articles, by the way. So this was the one yesterday that I shared with you guys. I won't do it again, but that's the one from yesterday. So, I mean, look at that. That's beautiful. Stunning graphics, right? You got Victoria. Is that Chamberlain back there? No, that's not Chamberlain. That's the one that started taxing people like crazy, right? He's the one that caused a lot of the estates to go broke. In other words, he made them pay their fair share of taxes. And of course, what's his name? I forget his name. But yeah, that, and then check this. I love this one. And this one. This is the one about Charles hiding his wealth. And more, yeah, these are beautiful. I have to say, these are stunning. This is the one about the Bourbons versus the Windsors. And then, you guys, if that wasn't enough, take a look at this. For something so shallow, the royal family is astonishingly expensive. They even did a story about the cost of some of the merchandise that the royal family sells. Again, this is from The Guardian. The trouble with the monarchy is not that it's too powerful, but that it is utterly useless, a worthless vacuum shrouded ceremony. Wow. Not my king, say the yellow t-shirt and anti-monarchist TV cameras may swerve around the coronation crowd, but he is our king, willy-nilly, like it or not, he and his royal family's finances show, our monarchy cost a fortune, more than anyone else's in Europe. The Bourbons of Spain cost a mere 7.4 million pounds a year, while we pay our Windsors a very pricey 86 million pounds. I question that because that's not taking into account security and such. And that's before we add the roughly, oh, there you go, roughly 40 million a year in revenues from the duchy, from their duchy estate, adding up to 1.2 billion over the years. That's not much really. Monarchists may claim out of the 1 billion pounds in annual government spending, the royals' consumption of taxpayer money is a mere, is that something French? Bagatelle, something flea bite. But yeah, so that's a lot of money. That is a lot of money. Where is it going? Where is it going? Well, I tell you one place that it's not going is I am so shady for this. Wait, let me find it. I'm going to tell you one place that it's not going. Let me see if I wait for it. Wait for it. Wait for it. Yeah, it's certainly not going for housekeeping, not for the royal guards. They're not spending it on a cleaning service. So where is the money going? It's certainly not going to the housekeepers, not for that part of the estate. Um, uh, that's so shady. Alma Andrews, thank you so much for the super sticker. And thank you so much for watching Royal Sussex. Yes, it's definitely not going for housekeeping. Oh, sorry about that. Let me scroll here. All right. And so I'm going to go to another subject, by the way. Let me see. And they are proud of paying so much for their monarch. Yeah, very proud of it. It's something about that do your duty or them doing their duty and they do charity work. If they took the money that they paid for the royal household and actually used that on charity, if they gave that money to nurses and such, everyone, please don't forget to vote for Harry and Meghan. Oh, I believe that's closed, right? I think that's closed. Yeah, I think that we've had the last of that. Oh, I'm sorry, Catherine. There you go. Can you imagine looking at Charles before? Why stop there? Why stop there? Okay, the coronation invitation reviewed. Is Charles planning a pumping pagan party? Pumping pagan. Anyway, does the king actually wish to be crowned arch druid master of the hobby horse? That would appear to be the pagan message of the elegant floral design and his standout characters, the leafy-faced green man. Well, it is a lot of symbolism going on here. And if you were into a conspiracy theory, like some people are, and that's cool, it is a lot of like pagan symbolism going on here. Like the green man at the bottom, I could see the Tudor roses, the white rose inside of the red rose. There's a bird and there's a unicorn and a lion and I don't see a dragon at all. But yeah, so there's all that going on. And then up close, you can see the green man. Now, the acorn at the very top, he has a crown of whatever flowers. And then the acorn, that is symbolic of abundance. And then those blue flowers, aren't those the ones that Princess Diana liked? The forget-me-nots? That looks like those forget-me-nots. Maybe they're just violets, but they look like those forget-me-nots, which would be pretty twisted if it is. But yes, arrogance where there should be shame. Shame on you. Now, just when you thought we were done, right? I still got more. The secret of Queen Camilla's rise in popularity. What is her secret? Now, you guys, I have been loyally watching the Lady Sussex every Sunday. And the past 2 Sundays, I believe, she has been asking the question about who is Camilla. And also, she's mentioned how they have been trying to erase Princess Diana. Um, and I feel strongly that not only are they trying to erase Princess Diana, they're also trying to erase those iconic images of Princess Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex. They're trying to erase. And the way they're doing that is by using those images of Diana and of Meghan as like a guide or a template. They're using that so that they can confuse history by using the same colors, the same silhouettes, the same type of occasions, the similar signage and such. That is the attempt to erase them from history. And of course, in order to remove any idea that this relationship between Charles and Camilla was born out of adultery, well, one of the most benevolent, one of the most endearing figures in Britain in the past 70 years has been Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. I mean, everybody loves the Queen. She is the very model of the sweet old lady, the grandmother of the country. I mean, she's outlived so many people. So why not try to identify with her? That's a good idea. So start wearing bright colors. Wear the big hats, wear the jewels. And if that's not enough, why don't you just have people call you the Queen? Have people call you the Queen. What better way to endear yourself to people? It's not like we lost Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, but we have gained another queen. And so now we have another the Queen, right? Now, I don't agree with that, but I'm assuming that that is the plan that they're trying to hatch or that they're working on, is to try to get another the Queen. And so Camilla, she is the Queen consort, but we're going to drop that consort and just call her the Queen. Now, they have been saying that for the longest, right? It is a way to forget about Diana and to try to achieve a cult-like following, for Camilla, so that she can be identified as a grandmother to the people of Britain. So that, I think, is part of the plan. Sorry. Did I send that to the wrong person? Sure did. I'm trying to. Okay. Sorry about that, you guys. There we go. TTY. Okay. TTYL. That's what I meant to say. All right. Okay, so Prince Charles and Camilla hired Daily Mail executive for top posts. That is one way to do that. That is how you change the narrative. So that is the secret to the rise of her popularity. I say it's a direct result of hiring people like the former Daily Mail executive. I mean, in other words, it's like getting in bed with the press. If you can't beat them, call them to your bedside. Princess Diana and her daughter-in-law, Duchess Meghan, is cemented into in the hearts of people. This cannot be removed since it will be passed down from generation to generation, especially if the Sussex squad has anything to do with it, of course. Absolutely. Okay, let me see. No amount of alleged bribery, body groom under the bus, thrown under the bus, right? Dining with press vultures would never erase Camilla's past, present, and future. Diana was, is, and will forever be Queen of Hearts. Amen to that. You got a bell for that. Thank you so much. Oh, yeah. I understand. Okay. And then right there, you can see the Duchess of Cornwall opens the Daily Mail Chalk Valley History Festival. So instead of any semblance of objectivity with a newspaper that is supposed to be, what do they call it? The fifth estate, to protect people from power, to speak truth to power. She's opening up an event for the very people that are supposed to keep an eye on her. And then right here, just take a look at how Queen Camilla nephew Ben Elliott did this YouGov manipulation project, allegedly. Nice job, Ben. Try brainwashing the world for your cheeky auntie, Queen Camilla. Of course, Harry and Meghan will always be at the bottom because Ben made it so, allegedly. Royal family really enjoying power. Bow to your Queen Camilla. So this alleges, I have to say allege, that, okay, there you go. Queen Camilla consort, United Kingdom, and there's her nephew, Ben Elliott. And then it says, who is the entrepreneur, society fixer, and Tory co-chair, Ben Elliott? He's been a YouGov director, a board member at the Center of Policy Studies think tank, a partner at Reputation Managers, Hawthorne Advisor, and etc. So if you combine Queen Camilla, her nephew, well, that plus that equals Queen Camilla consort. She is still down to 38% in popularity. But the problem is they keep putting Harry and Meghan beneath her, right? So right here, there you go. Same thing I just said. And then, of course, over here, you can see out of the fame category, 95% of the people they polled know who Camilla is. That's what fame means. By the way, Meghan's fame number is like 98. I think she scores pretty high compared to most people. So her fame score is 95. Popularity, 38%. Dislike, 29%. 28% neutral. So let's just say about 60% of the people have no use for her. Charles, of course, 55%. And I forgot when this poll was taken. He's above Zara, Sophie, Edward, and Camilla, still 38%. So YouGov, a British international internet-based market research data analytics firm, conducted a survey of 4,026 Britons on Tuesday. The UK survey found that 14% of Britons have a negative view of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. Of course they do. After the 3 first episodes of the couple's new documentary series, So imagine this had to have been right after the Harry and Meghan on Netflix. That's when they took this. So I would say what, somewhere in November or maybe December? Yeah, November. So anyway, as a result of this campaign to rebuild Camilla's reputation, someone like Amanda Platel says, as a betrayed wife, I was on Team Diana. So why have I finally forgiven Camilla? Now that is a big leap. Hey, Mystic Toxin, that is a big leap from the Amanda Platel who said, I can't forgive Camilla for the way she treated Princess Di as she basked in the glow of her rehabilitation years later. So in 2022, February 2022, that was before the Queen died, already she's drinking that Camilla Kool-Aid. But if you look back to August 2017, Amanda Platel was still furious, I would say, with Camilla. What has changed? What has changed? Okay, I think I have an idea. I think now is a good time to share this with you. Here we go. And Camilla plotted to smear Diana to win public's love. Prince Charles and Camilla Parker Bowles plotted to besmirch Princess Diana as a heated counterattack from their vilification at the hands of the People's Princess in the media, according to a tell-all book. In Rebel Prince, The Power, Passion, and Defiance of Prince Charles by Tom Bower, it is alleged that Prince Charles and Camilla planned to slur Diana as a scheming hysteric and hired a 29-year-old spin doctor to achieve their aim. It came after the marriage between Charles and Diana broke down, and the princess very effectively used the media to lambaste the royal family. In one interview with a journalist, she said, Charles is obsessed by Camilla, and I haven't got to as big as Camilla's. Camilla is said to have originally called Diana a mouse, but later referred to her as a mad cow. In 1995, Diana won over the hearts and minds of the public after a secretly recorded interview was shown on Panorama. She said, well, there were 3 of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded. This drove Camilla into seclusion for a year and meant a lot of Charles's public appearances were ignored by the media, while journalists and spectators besieged Diana, according to the book. Prince Charles's approval ratings took a huge hit, and Camilla worried he was at risk of buckling under the pressure or failing to inherit the crown, it is claimed. In 1996, Camilla turned to solicitor Hilary Brown Wilkinson, who had recently handled her divorce. The solicitor suggested hiring Mark Bolland, a well-connected 29-year-old director of the Press Complaints Commission, as a spin doctor. But at the end of 1996, in a poll of 3,000 people, Charles was voted the most hated royal just above Camilla, and Princess Diana's star remained undimmed. The media spin was not enough, and so the prince decided to cooperate with journalist Penny Junor, who was planning to write a book sympathetic to Camilla. And to launch Camilla, she was to host a fundraiser for the National Osteoporosis Society after her mother suffered from the condition. This was to mark the beginning of a 5-year campaign to transform her from adulteress into a likable heir to the throne. But after the invitations were sent out, came the news of Princess Diana's death. Prince Charles is said to have been worried that people blame the death of Diana on him. In the hours after the princess's death, one of the Queen's courtiers claimed that even Charles's sons were critical of him. Prince Charles dithered about going to Paris until the Queen said, I think you should get out there. Allegedly, Prince Charles became increasingly angry about the status of his ex-wife after her death, when she was mythologized despite being a nutter. Camilla and Prince Charles realized the campaign to make improve their image had to be suspended. Camilla and Bolland arranged for a journalist that Camilla knew to write a flattering article about her in the Sunday Times.
Charles, Camilla, and Mark Bolin also met at Highgrove to construct another campaign to demythologize Diana by portraying her as a manipulative hysteric. After Diana's death, Penny Jr. had recast her book to portray the princess as an unbalanced and unfaithful wife suffering from borderline personality disorder who compelled Charles to return to his true love. Charles reportedly said, "We must get this out," when he heard the news, but publicly he claimed he had not authorized, solicited, or approved the book. In 1999, Camilla and Prince Charles planned a 4-day trip to America just 2 years after Diana's death. The couple leaked details about their trip and drip-fed positive stories.
Anna Boyd, thank you so much for the super sticker, and thank you so much for watching Royal Sussex. So, yes, Alma Andrews, yes, no matter how many lies are told, how many tabloids crap is fed to gullible cultists, Camilla isn't changing. Yep, there you go. Tom Bauer had said that there was a plot. Tom Bauer. So Tom Bauer turned his sights on, of course, Meghan. And if you guys remember that whole big deal he made about, oh, when I get through with her and she's afraid and they ought to be afraid of me. And then his book was a big fat nothing burger. So take any of this with a grain of salt. But one thing that we know for sure is that there was some pretty shady stuff from the likes of Charles and Camilla. And I do believe that their goal was to gaslight and destabilize Diana as much as they could. And then even after she died tragically and mysteriously in that tunnel in Paris, I think the goal was to try to paint her as a very troubled individual. Never mind how she got there. Never mind that someone, a rather polite and shy, precocious teenage girl was snatched from obscurity, albeit from a aristocratic family, and pretty much seduced with the trappings of a prince, a royal family. As a matter of fact, you guys, Diana's mother, her biological mother, had, their marriage of her parents had dissolved. And so one thing that seems to be consistent with anyone who has come from a child of divorce is you want a family. You want that stability, And so I'm pretty sure Diana assumed that, okay, here comes some stability finally. But it was doomed from conception because Charles wasn't really into it. He was doing his duty. But you can't excuse him because he was in his 30s. He wasn't a kid. 35 years old, you're old enough to be president of the United States. I think he was, 32, 34 years old? So he's the one who was the true adult in the relationship as it goes. And he just never really acted as an adult. He acted more like a little spoiled, petulant child. And even if you were forced into this situation out of a sense of duty, you don't take it out on the other person, especially someone as young and naive as Diana was. I mean, it's a real tragedy. And so the way that they sell this story of Charles and Camilla is that it was the relationship of the ages. It was meant to be. Diana is cold in her grave. I can't overlook that. I'm not going to overlook that. Manipulation and abuse is the reason why she's no longer here. Now, as you can see over there, Peter Hunt says, let me see, is that November 2022? Yeah, it's got to be. Today, a remarkable group of people gathered at Buckingham Palace with one aim, to see the end of violence against women and girls. I was deeply moved and inspired by their stories. With determination and courage, we will see an end to these heinous crimes forever. That's the words of Camilla. However, in spite of all of that, she has actually broken bread. She has broken bread with Jeremy Clarkson. Camilla has been known to share cigarettes with him. And Richard Eaton says conversation must have been lively at Queen Camilla's lunch in Mayfair this week with Piers Morgan and Jeremy Clarkson, two of the biggest abusive trolls I can think of. Among the guests, this is from Clarkson's typical forthright column in The Sun today. So look at him. He's sitting up there celebrating this event with them, albeit from his column. And then, of course, there's Prince Charles and Camilla hired. Oh, I don't know why I put that up there. And over there, Piers Morgan claims royal family member thanked him for standing up for the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. So, yeah, when he says that, I'm assuming that he means Camilla, but we don't know for sure. But either way, obviously, there was some connection to the family while he's on television 5 days a week, trying to figure out another way to destroy Meghan. And pretty much what they were trying to do to Meghan is what was done to Diana, to try to challenge her sanity, to try to make her leave. By any means, leave. Whether you're 98.6 degrees or room temperature, we want you to go. That was exactly what happened to Diana. So those three people gathered before, what was it, Christmas? They had their little party in Mayfair. And no, the person in the center, that is not Rupert Murdoch. That is Jeremy Clarkson, who is slightly older than me, I think. But that's Jeremy Clarkson. And, of course, Piers Morgan and her. So, of course, Harry, well, they say Harry branded her as the villain. Well, you know, call it whatever you want to, but Harry spoke his truth. Harry spoke his truth. And so this was the big blaring headline from the Daily Fail when Harry spoke his truth. And of course, you have the Telegraph, the Daily Express, the Times, the Sun, the Mirror, the Daily Fail, amongst other papers. And of course, let's not forget some of the Rupert Murdoch American media outlets. All of them have been trying to gaslight the public, whilst at the same time trying to destroy Meghan the same way they destroyed Diana. Charles and Camilla plotted to smear Diana to win public's love. And all of this, of course, is what was mentioned in the earlier. But yeah, that was it. They wanted to smear Diana to win the love of the public. And even with all their efforts, their polling numbers are not exactly stellar. And this is the part that really, really makes me sick on the stomach. Along with all the gaslighting from the tabloid media, along with all of the smears and such from other members of the royal family, Charles and Camilla in particular, who helps them? Who helps them make their case? William. William goes and stands in front of a camera with a speech that was probably handed to him, and he claims the BBC lies ruined my mother's life. He said that they fueled the, let me pull that down so I can see that top there. Bashir's lurid and false claims that he says fueled Diana's fear and paranoia and drove his parents apart. So the only reason your parents were driven apart was because of Martin Bashir? You mean to tell me there wasn't a silky chicken somewhere in the equation? Huh? You mean to tell me that had nothing to do with anything? See, that's what's so clever and so deceptive about this, is that William is not speaking to you. He's not speaking to me. He's speaking to the royalists, the deranged royalists, the cultist followers of that institution. He's speaking to them to say, listen, all of this is because of the BBC and Martin Bashir panorama. Don't blame the male, the mirror, the sun, the stars, the moon, the cow that jumped over the moon, the spoon. Don't blame any of those things. Blame Martin Bashir and the BBC. Now, one of the reasons why it's good to blame the BBC is because it puts the BBC on the defensive. If the BBC hasn't been catering to the royal family enough, this creates a defensive posture where they will go overboard to prove that they are on the right side of history and that they support the royal family henceforward. See what I mean? So Harry, in responding to the revelation about Martin Bashir, says toxic culture led to his mother's death. He blames a toxic culture, not the BBC, not Martin Bashir, and even if there was a deception, that was still his mother's words. This is gaslighting. This is deception. This is propaganda. Blame the BBC, blame Martin Bashir, and whatever responsibility that the tabloids may have had, don't look at that. Look at this shiny object over here, the BBC and Martin Bashir. Don't look at that other stuff. So that's why I say somebody handed him this speech, and like a big dummy, he went out there and parroted every single point that they were trying to make. Just like a parrot. Bark, 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 bark. Wait, no, that's a chicken. Like a parrot. Ark, ark, ark. Martin Bashir. Ark, ark. BBC. Ark. Just like a parrot. He stood up there flapping his wings, feathers and stuff flying all over the place. Ark. Martin Bashir. Ark. BBC. Breaking up families since 1981. The woman has two faces. There's the face that she shares with the public on most occasions, which is just as haunting as the face that she shares with the families that she's tearing apart. And of course, that is something that goes back quite a ways. It really started with her great great grandmother, and it continues to this very day. So, again, if you were a part of the mourning for Diana, I don't know how in the world you can justify supporting Charles and the institution that did everything they could to destroy her, along with that same institution that has been targeting Meghan all these years. Claims to campaign on behalf of women who are abused, but invites men who publicly, verbally abuse Meghan to a private Christmas dinner. This is the woman who was pretending like she was crying because she was upset about the abuse of women. But look at who she chooses to invite to her party. She stands with abusers because she is an abuser. I said what I said. She stands with abusers because she is an abuser. Hey, Dorothy Ross, thank you so much for joining us. And thank you, as always, for being a member of Royal Sussex. And also, thank you for the hugs. And then, of course, there was this today. Now, let me see if I can do this. This is something last minute that I got before I went on, so I'm going to try to share it. Let me see. I can get kind of hungry now. I have been talking up a storm.
Not at all. I think that Harry's completely right. I think that the tabloids shouldn't be allowed to get away with what they're getting away with. I think they've done a lot of harm to a lot of people. They did it to Paula Yates, in my opinion. And if anybody watches the Paula Yates story, they would recognise that.
Yeah, do you know what? I think I'd like to watch that, but I know it's going to be very painful. Although, as Isabel's been saying, this goes back a way, and maybe they've changed.
Maybe they have, but I think they should be brought to justice. And I do think that Harry's completely right. I admire Harry. I admire him for his book. I thought his book was fabulous. I think Harry is doing a lot, may help us in a lot of ways, and he is helping us in a lot of ways. And I'm absolutely upset with the way that he's been treated.
Okay.
I'm on Harry's side, but I also, the fact in question is what you're talking about, which is the tabloids.
Okay, Christian, thank you. Freddie, thanks so much. Just want to...
Not at all. I think that Harry's completely right. I think that the tabloids shouldn't be allowed to get away.
Just talk about French.
Okay. There you go, you guys. So I wish, I hope, I pray that the public, and not just the British public, but everybody, will be more vocal about these things. It seems as though war has become virtual. Protests has become increasingly virtual. So you have to fight these battles where you can. The tabloid media has destroyed many a life, and they continue to do it because there's nobody standing up to them. I think the tabloid media is one of the reasons why life has been made difficult for women in leadership. Now, as you guys know, I was very upset when Nicola Sturgeon stepped down. But because she was the face of the party, if she didn't leave, it would have really caused more disarray in the Scottish government. So she did what she had to do. And there may have been, excuse me, there may have been other reasons, but I was really upset because I really like her. I think she's bright and courageous, and I like the way she's speaks her truth. And then of course Jacinda Ardern had quit just before she did, and I just felt like having her step back or step down, should I say, Jacinda was pretty sad. And then when Nicola decided she was going to step down, it seemed like a terrible blow to women in leadership, because as it is, you have people have these very archaic ideas about women being too emotional or not able to handle tough situations. And I believe that if there were more women in leadership, the world would be a much safer place to be. That there would be less wars, there would be more harmony. Women seem to work together better, especially where children are involved. Women tend to come together more so than men do. So, even if it's just an experiment, I would take my chances, but I would like to see more women in leadership. And yes, I know deep down inside we're all humans, but still, like I say, it may not be the best answer, but seeing that men have had control of the narrative all these years, men have had power, been at the top of the pyramid all these years, I don't know what could possibly go wrong. So that's why it was such a blow to me. And I can't help but think that the right-wing tabloid media is one of the reasons why life has been made so difficult for women to insert themselves in leadership. So that's just my belief. It may be a bit naive or whatever, but that's just the way I see it. So I was very bothered when Nicola Sturgeon stepped down, and it still bothers me. But, she has to take care of herself and her family. So for whatever reason, and I know there was some fuss about her husband today. I haven't really had a chance to look into that. I think he was arrested or something, or someone in our household was arrested. I have no idea. But I'm going to have to take a deep dive into that one. But it was a lot of news today. So a lot to catch up on. But yeah, that's where I stand with that. And so Harry going after the tabloid media, Harry, being the loudest voice against the tabloids right now, we cannot let him fight this battle alone. And I hope that more people, more A-listers, if you will, more people in key powerful positions will take up the fight with him, because it's too big for just one person. But they have, in the light of day, full light of day, they have tried to destroy Meghan, and they didn't care who took notice of it. The only thing that they're upset about is that people are questioning their right to do that. People are questioning their necessity of going after a African American woman, a woman of color, this biracial woman, and even targeting her children by making the Sussex children a subject to debate. It creates an unhealthy atmosphere for them. Not because they're going to get older and find out about it, but in real time, there's a lot of loons running around this world, and they don't care. The tabloids don't care that people are targeted, that people are being bullied or threatened. They don't care. It's all part of their job to spread the propaganda of whatever overlords are running their papers or whatever. Plus, individually, the reporters are pretty nasty people anyway. You know, sometimes I Google the names of these tabloid reporters, especially the ones I don't know. And let me tell you something. It is quite a freak show. They all seem to have a certain look about them. The first time I heard that, I was watching Tina and Michelle. And was it Michelle Supreme or the other Michelle? Wasn't it two Michelles on there? She spoke about that. She said they all seem to have a certain look about them. They all seem to be very angry, bitter, unattractive, inbred, if you will, but they all seem to have a look about them. And that is the common denominator, is the look. And in most cases, it's because they are older, usually white. They have the so-called public school education. And if they're not from the public school, and I'm speaking of the upper class school for rich people in Britain, if they aren't from one of those public schools, then they're probably someone who's a social climber or someone with close proximity to the royal family who wants to have even more access. Or they're just plain racist. They're just plain racist. And you can't even limit their brand of reporting to racism because they are just hateful people. They're hateful people. They go after anybody. But in particular, if you're so-called woke or left-leaning or a person of color, God help you if they come across you. When they found out who sang the song at Harry and Meghan's wedding, Wilson Pickett, when they found out that they were jamming to a Wilson Pickett song, the next thing you know, all over the Daily Mail is stories about Wilson Pickett and his history of drug use. Wilson Pickett has been dead for years. But it's another way to bring a negative connotation of some sort, a negative image. And this was this was nothing to do with Harry and Meghan, but it was Wilson Pickett. And it was a way to create more negative imagery or negative vibe or mood or feeling about Harry, about Meghan, about the wedding, about any of that stuff. And Wilson Pickett, of course, happens to be an African-American soul singer. But that's how they work. That is how they work. It was so long ago that you would not find a female in politics or CEO of a company. That was almost unheard of. And I remember at one time, let me see, was it up until the 1960s or 70s that a woman in the United States could not get a credit card or a credit card account, any type of credit in her own name? There were some places where women had to have an account with their husband. They were not allowed to get a credit card on their own. In the United States, not so long ago. Anyway, you guys, I think that was it for today. Yes, it is. Thank you all so much. Almost 3 hours, huh? But thank you. We covered a lot today, and I hope it was informative. Not as much fun today, but I hope it was informative. And thank you all for supporting Royal Sussex. Thank you for your generous donations. And I am able to do things a lot faster with my PC. So maybe that will help things, come on earlier now. So yeah, thank you very much. And I really appreciate it. And thank you, moderators, for keeping this a safe space. And yeah, that's it then. All right, you guys, I'm not going to linger today. I'm going to take off. But thank you to our queens for those amazing kids. I have so much hope for them, hope for their future, hope for their family, and of course for the Sussex squad. And thank you guys for reaching out about my brother. I appreciate that at the very beginning. If you guys missed it, people were asking about my brother who had been terribly ill the past year. He's thriving and surviving. So it's miraculous. It's a miracle. It is those squatty prayers. That's what it is. All right, then. Okay. Thank you, B-Ram. Fatima Owens, thank you. Good night, Olive Perry, who just happens to have a nice little send-off for us. Good night, everyone. Sweet dreams. Thank you very much. That sounds like a good closing for today. And with that, you guys, I am going to cue Ginger Avenger. And then I need to make a business call, and I will see you all tomorrow. All right, cheers. Love you guys. And God save the silky chicken. Oh, man. God save that silky poultry. Yeah, poultry. I said God save. You guys stop changing the words in your head. I know what you guys are saying in your heads, or maybe even worse, saying it out loud, but I said save, not any other words. We're all God's children, right? Or whatever type of vertebrae we are. Whatever type of vertebrae or invertebrate we are all God's children or poultry. Okay, I'm going to cue the Ginger Avenger.
Love Prince Harry, and Prince Harry should be king. He should be king. Prince Harry, not William. William and all of them in there. Camilla is the wicked witch of the devil himself, because she is part of why Princess Diana is not here. I do not like them. I am from the islands, and we don't need them in the Caribbean. Get lost. Demolish the monarchy. This is 2023, okay? And I will support Harry 100%. I do feel for him. Yes, I do. And everything in the book is the truth. And Charles is the monster, not Harry. Harry's no monster, not Meghan. He's bringing the story out right now. They are evil people. They are not nice. Behind the wall, we all are one human being, and behind that wall there are no difference with me and you and any other Brits. Give the people back the money. They are just welfare recipients, living off the taxpayers of the British people. And the British people are stupid, supporting that nonsense monarchy. It is nothing. It's just a title. It means nothing, a title. I'm angry at them.